everybody get a chance to print out the stuff that I sent earlier as far as kind of the little itinerary tips and tricks that I sent out earlier?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. What I'm just going to do is I'll just kind of run down this, and then if anyone has questions, please feel free to chime in. This is my first training on this, so any questions will be helpful if we need to do any future ones. I don't know how many of you have actually heard of Prezi or actually got a chance to use it yet, but as you see kind of our first little paragraph here, Claire wanted me to kind of go over the reasoning why we would use Prezi, because it's not something that you could always, you will always be using for all of your projects, but it's something that's a little bit more innovative and exciting than just a regular PowerPoint presentation. So just to read the first paragraph here, Prezi is a cloud-based presentation software that opens up a new world between whiteboards and slides. Instead of the slide-based linear structure, it gives you a single big canvas to work on. Ease of photo video integration is fairly easy. So again, it releases your creativity, works in infinite spaces, no ties to sequence of slides, easy to use, and it's really good at showing the relation to the context, kind of like a map. So, and you guys will see this when we start going through some of these things. And Morgan and her department has they've been working out the licensing for everybody in their offices. So there's several different ways to do it. You can, do the standalone or a group, which I believe is what we're going to do. And Morgan can speak a little bit more on that.
Yeah, so currently what some users have been doing is just creating a free account and then using it that way. Some other users have been purchasing the pro account. So we have just a lot of different variation between what people are and how they're trying to get access to Prezi. So what we're doing is we're just going to create kind of a large Ryan Companies group, and within that we've determined like 16 kind of super users that are spread throughout all of the offices who will be given those pro licenses. Some people who already have the pro licenses, they'll obviously keep theirs, but then we're adding some more. And so that conversation with Claire just let us know who should have those access licenses and things like that. So more information will be coming out about that, but as just kind of general information, each office will have roughly at least one, if not two. In the Minneapolis office, we're going to have a couple of more licenses just because we have some other departments that we want to have access to it. But what it will allow us to do is be able to share Prezi projects amongst one another. We can also share templates. So if marketing has some specific templates that they want to share throughout all of the users, it just makes it really easy to do that. And then the other thing that we'll be doing is we'll be creating a presentation license so that if a PM or PA is working on one project and they just need to present it in front of a group, instead of having their own license because maybe they're just going to use it really infrequently, we'll have some type of a presentation license that they can log into, that the information and the project will be there. So more information will come out. Some of you I've already contacted about your Prezi license. But anyway, so that should hopefully be out within the next week or two. So.
Thanks, Morgan. So the licenses should be fairly easy to share. Right now we have a few within our office here that we've kind of been able to share presentations back and forth. So, and that's something I'm not necessarily going to go over today. Or not licenses, I'm sorry, presentations. I'm not necessarily going to go over that today, but if someone has specific need for that, we can talk kind of offhand and do that. So, so to get started, when you first go to, it's prezi.com. So you just, the page that's showing now, this is the main page that you go into. All of us will obviously get some sort of license. So in the upper right-hand corner, there's this login button. That doesn't let me do anything. Sometimes in this program, I guess we can call it, it errors out because some of the stuff is a little bit larger. You can always refresh and it usually comes back. So, and I'm just going to use mine to sign in. And it's usually our email address is what will, I can spell correctly today, is what will get you your login. And then when you receive it, you're going to get this big old long funky password. Feel free to change that, but just let anybody on your team know that you're changing it to something easy. So if it's, maybe if you're in the Austin office and you have this under your email address, maybe you just change the password to Austin. So it's just to make it easier for everybody.
What were we going to make the main presentation one? Is it Ryan?
I think it was Ryan 1938.
Yeah.
Is what we were thinking.
So if you guys want to default to a similar one, Ryan 1938 would be a standard.
Yeah, and we'll have a wiki page available that will list who has the Prezi licenses, so you would know who to contact in each of your offices. But yeah, having some generic passwords will definitely be helpful.
Okay, so like you said, it just, the errors sometimes. So if your connection is slow, sometimes it doesn't work, but you can see I just kind of went backwards and forwards and it got me. And normally I don't have this much problem, but what I want to do is I'll just kind of go over the tabs on each page just to try to make it as simple as possible for you to understand the platform that it has. So when you log in, it's going to bring you up to your Prezis, which is it's where all of your Prezis that you have worked on exist. As you can see, there's some different ones that I've worked on here. Also, if you copy a Prezi, which I'll go over in one of these next tabs, it'll show up here too, so you'll be able to work on it in the future. Sorry, my mouse is really jumpy, so please forgive me for working with this mouse. We tried to change it, but it didn't work. The second tab that you can go to doesn't want to work. It was working the other day, so is the Learn tab, and this is going to be where you're going to find a lot of the tutorials. If you have questions on anything you're working on that you don't understand, you can go here and then just type in the search bar and it'll bring up anything that's listed underneath either Prezi.com, or there's a lot of user groups out there. So it'll bring up a lot of that stuff that'll help you find what you're needing. And then they do, once you have a membership, they do send you like weekly or monthly tips, which just kind of gives you an overview of what their new stuff is that they're doing. Just kind of like they have the new features here tab. So I'm afraid to click, but but as you can see, these were the dates they came out, and these are the different things that you can either go forwards or backwards on and try to learn a little bit more about it if you're not understanding the stuff we went over today. If that's the case, I did a really bad job. The Explore button is where you're going to be able to find pre-made Prezis by different people anywhere, basically across the world. You'll see a lot of them are not in English as you go through. But something like if we click on the business and conferences, it'll bring you to a list of all the different Prezis. And again, if you just want to view them just random, you just click on them. You can view them just to get ideas. This is something that I started with because Prezi is a little bit tough to work on because you're basically working on a full canvas. So you're popping all of your information in there, and then you have to create your paths from there versus in a PowerPoint presentation, you have one slide, information goes on there, you go to the next slide. So it's just a little bit more different. So using this Explore tab is a good way to get ideas of how you want to start if you're not necessarily using our template. And then when you scroll down here, it does, if it allows me to, it will give you, it will actually give you some that you can copy, like I stated before, these reusable Prezis. So if you're clicking on this tab, everything that is in here, well, there's not very many now, but there probably is a different way to search it, but you are able to copy and use. So if we're down here in the corner on the left-hand side, it says make a copy. If I was to do that, it's going to put it in my Prezis tab, so I can use it and modify it later. Pretty simple. Questions, anyone?
This is Emily Meyer with a question. If we needed to do a Prezi tomorrow, you said there'd be a rotating account for people who don't have their own. what login information should we be using, or should we be using to go in and look around and kind of get the lay of the land?
If you're just wanting to learn it, you can just go in and play around with it. But we do have a couple accounts here that we've been using in Minneapolis. If it's not available to your office yet, that we can email you the information for to get in and mess around with, or set up a new project.
Yeah, you can always create a free account if you just want to play around in it or test in it for the time being. If you just want to go in there, you can create a free account and just set one up on your own. But definitely, if it's work related, we can give you login information. So you can just email me. It's Morgan. So.
Okay.
Underneath your name where you sign in, this is the account. This is where you're gonna be able to change your password and add in any information that you're going to need to change any of that stuff. As you can see, I'm underneath a pro subscription for Ryan Companies. And this is an important thing too, as we start sharing stuff, is how much of the memory that we've used up. Because everything is saved online, it's all virtual. There's a limit to what we have. And I think I stated that on here. Yeah, so the standalone, which is what I'm at, we have 2 gigs of storage. So you can see I've used 3%. So and again, email looks like you can do a new email, which I've never done. I've just used my own account and then changing your passwords. Delete your account. So that's pretty easy. To get started on an actual Prezi itself, you can either start a brand new one, or you can use a copied one from someone else, or you can, they have templates that you can use. So if I kind of have a couple things here, oh gosh, smells. So if you want to create a new Prezi, we're just gonna, you click on this. You put the name of your Prezi that you want in a description, and then create a new Prezi. An error has occurred. I'm going to show you everything that will go wrong today. Let's try it again. Some of the problems I was having with Prezi when I first started working with it, and I don't know if the other offices will have problems with it either, is it was not allowing me to create a brand new Prezi. The internet was locking us out. But since then, I believe they fixed it. Let's hope. I haven't necessarily opened a new one on this computer. There we go. The first thing this should do is it should bring up a template. If I'd want to use any of those templates, I can click on it and start a new Prezi from there. Slowly. I have yet to use one of the template Prezis. I've either created something myself from an idea that I found on the reusable or even the regular ones. Or took one of those reusable ones and just tweaked it a little bit. I find it's a little bit harder starting from scratch sometimes. Wow. Sorry for that. And, oh, moved a little. Perfect. Okay. So these are the templates that they've added to kind of help give people ideas to kind of start from. And they've actually added a lot since the beginning, which is kind of nice. So you don't always have to just go in and start making your circles and squares and different things like that. You can see some of these have full image backgrounds. I'll go over that when we get into actually working in one. But this is kind of the idea of any of these. Well, they did get this one. This one's pretty cool. And since they've updated it, you'll get a few little tricks and tips like this when you start out, so you can just continue or read through them and continue. So picking on one of the templates, this is actually a really cool one. You can tell it's an image in the background, which hopefully I can click on it here. And then these little boxes are frames. There's basically images upon images set in here. So what you can do is scrolling in and out of this whole area is considered the canvas. And how you scroll in and out is just the roll button on your mouse when it wants to. And every time I'm hovering over one of these items, it's allowing me to select it. That's what you're, and that little thing that comes up is called the zebra. That's going to be your editing tool for each of these objects that you're working in. If you want to just move back and forth, hold down the left mouse button, and you get that little hand, and it'll allow you to move back and forth. If you're clicking anywhere in here, it'll give you this text option. So basically all I'm doing is getting my mouse to work right. Is clicking outside here in the open, and then you're able to type anything in here. I open up this. I am. Once you've typed something and you want to edit it, you can either hit this little pencil button, which is this guy here, and that'll get you back into either add more text or make it so you can change the type font. And you only are allowed 3 of these per Prezi. So if you want any other type fonts, you are going to have to bring them in as an image. And then, of course, your size. You can either use this button. Your colors for your text these are the multiple colors that you're able to change your text to. It has to be highlighted, then you can change it. Eek. And then if we go over, this is for center, left, right, and fully aligned. And then these are bullet points that you can put in here too. So text is pretty easy. I can go over how we actually get the 3 different type fonts set in there, which I'll do in just a second. What I can do is go over all of these buttons that are on the outside. These are going to be everything that's going to help you work through stuff. So I'm going to start with add frames.
Casey's doing that. If the people who are listening, can you guys mute your phones? A few other people on the line are having a hard time hearing.
Oh, yep. Yep, I can.
Thank you.
I had a suggestion to play this so everybody can see what it looks like. For those of you who haven't done it before, if you hit the present button when you're in your editing mode, that's going to bring you to your full everything that's going to be played. And then if you can see at the bottom of the screen down here, there's a left and right arrows. Those are going to be what allows you to move back and forth throughout your presentation. So I'm hitting the forward button, and that's going to bring us to basically our next slide, if you want to call it a slide from PowerPoint. They call them paths in Prezi. So you can see what it's allowing us to do is kind of twist and turn and move. So that's what's giving it that little bit different feel than what you're getting from PowerPoint. Again, we can go backwards. The reasons why we chose to use this project or to use this program also is Mike Ernst is working with it, and I don't know if any of you have ran across what he's using it for within your offices. But once you have these paths and different areas set up, you're able just to, on the iPad, it's a lot easier than the computer, but you can just click on these areas and it brings you in and out. So you don't necessarily have to have a run of a path set up. Key on the right-hand side, this is the home screen, which will get you back to your whole entire canvas. Obviously, there's the zoom in, which if you're using your wheel, you don't necessarily use that much. Once, if I hover over the bottom, our left and right keys are there, and then all the way over to the right-hand side, we have this little button that looks like a clock with an arrow. If you click and hold your mouse on it, it's going to give you the option of play each one of these presentations, either 4 seconds, 10 seconds, or 20 seconds. So if it's something like you want to run on like a kiosk screen, or if you're in a presentation and you just want something to run in the background that you're going to be able to speak to it within these second ranges, this is a good way to do it. And then this already popped it up at full screen, but the other button down here is the full screen button. You can see it changes it. As far as the buttons up here on the top, again, like I said, this is a present button. This is going to be, it'll create a new Prezi within a new window. So if you're working in here and you want to copy and paste something to another Prezi, which is brand new, you can just hit this and it'll open up in another Windows Explorer button or place.
We're fabulous.
I think you can down.
Oh, yeah.
And then meet all button.
Right, that's right. That's what it's going to do next.
It's just going to mute from there.
Again, guys, if you could put it on mute, we're getting a lot of background noise.
I figure if I could just say head
Hello? Can everybody hear us? Can you please put your phones on mute? Both. To continue to go over these buttons, again, this makes a new one. This saves, and if you hover over it, it'll tell you the last time Prezi saves. And it saves every 1 to 2 minutes, depending on what you're doing in it. So this is a huge, huge thing to know, because if you're taking somebody else's presentation and you're working in it, if you do any changes, it's going to save it. So it's really hard to go backwards. You can go backwards and forwards, but depending on how many moves that you're doing within it, I would prefer everybody to do a save a copy as, just like you would have done from the reusable ones that are just online. So that's extremely important, so people aren't ruining other people's presentations, or changing, I guess, not necessarily ruining. And then there's the undo button, which is this one, and the redo. And it does go back quite a bit, but again, it's still something that you don't want to mess with somebody else's presentation if you can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go in one of the presentations I already have open. So I need to exit. These buttons up here are invite others to watch, which there'll be another button on the main screen that will allow you to do that. You can print this as a PDF, so each area that you have in the paths, which is over here on the left-hand side, you'll be able to print each one of those slides. This is the settings, which is going to allow you to, if you're presenting, there's a part in your notes about this. If you're presenting on a projector, they recommend that you change your screen width to this 4.3 when you're designing things. That way everything's going to come up nice and square and it's going to fit the screen correctly, versus most of our computers nowadays are the widescreen variety. So that's going to be important if you know that you're going to be doing it on a projector. And I'm stuck. The slowest computer ever. Questions, again, if you have questions, you can go to this help button. Otherwise, this will save what you've done and bring you to a new one, or bring you to your Prezis. I'm going to do this one. So the presentation that you're going to be looking at right now is going to be our marketing templates, and everybody will get a copy of this to have on their license, so you can manipulate it and change it the way that you would like to change it. Some of the best ways to share and change and do anything that you need to do with this is down here on the bottom. You can see when I hover over the word template, there's an edit button. What that's going to do is it's going to allow you to change the name of things. Again, the date you can change. And then these buttons on the bottom. Edit obviously gets us inside of the Prezi itself. View together, what that's going to do is it's going to give you a link that you can copy and paste into an email, and you can send it to somebody. So you're able to work on things together. You can move things around, you can switch hands that way. Unfortunately, I've tried to use this for training a couple people, and you are not able to see, say if I'm working in the control pieces, the person on the other end doesn't see the control pieces. All they see is the canvas itself. So that's a good way to share it. The download button, this is how we're going to take your Prezi offline. So if you're working on a computer or you're presenting and you don't know if you're going to have internet access, you're going to want to use the download button, and that will allow you to download a usable Prezi. The thing you need to remember is when you are, the computer you're using it on, even though if you don't have internet access, needs to have the latest version of Adobe Flash. Otherwise, it'll just give you errors every time you try to open up. There'll be a big exclamation point. Worse than what I was doing when I was trying to get into it. So then what you have to do is you have to download the Flash and restart it, and it'll work. Save a copy, which is what I'm going to do with this because this is my only template. Share is basically the same thing as your view together. You're just sending out
Casey, can I ask a quick question? I don't know if people are using this yet for client presentations, but if we were to do that, do you recommend that we download it and take it offline? I suppose if we know we don't have reliable internet, we'll do that, but even if we did know we're going to have good Wi-Fi, do these run smoothly from the web all the time, or are there any issues with that?
Well, like you saw today, it runs fine on my computer, but I'm having problems here. So I would suggest at least bringing a copy of the downloaded one if you are planning on doing the internet. That way you'd have both there, and you'd be able to have that backup. It's super easy, and it's only 3 files when you get down to it to bring it with you. Another thing is if you have any links to websites or YouTube videos or anything like that, that is obviously not going to work if you don't have internet access. So you'll have to use it from the Prezi.com.
Yeah.
And
if you're on your iPad too, it does download to the iPad.
Yep.
So you will be offline with the iPad, but as Casey said, if you have a YouTube link, you do need to have Wi-Fi access with that as well.
To play it, do you have to have the latest Flash as well?
Yep.
Okay.
Will
that,
a
Emily?
link work even if you've got a downloaded copy of your Prezi, but you are signed in to the internet?
Yeah, it
I
does
haven't
on the
tried that, I
iPad.
guess. Okay, it
It
does.
does on the iPad for sure.
You're telling me I can get an iPad?
No, Mark, you're signed up.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So as you can see, what I did was I did a save a copy, and what it comes up as is copy of template. If I go backwards here, you can see I have the regular one that I was in, and then it saves a copy of it. So to get into it, just click on it on the main screen piece of it, and then if I want to change this name, pretty simple. Another thing that you're getting with, when we have the Pro versions, we're able to save it as private, or we can publish it for everybody else to view, like the other ones that were on there, or we can publish it to share. But we're choosing to always change them to private because of the content that we're using within our company. So we don't want anybody else taking our stuff and going out there with it. We could, I suppose, use public, but we don't want anybody to save a copy of it. So that's just something you always need to change if you're starting something new, or if you're taking one from somebody else, you need to always change this to private. And that's just clicking on those buttons.
Does private mean private within Ryan as a group?
Yep, it just
So
means
all
it's not
these-
shared on the internet.
Okay.
So, and then of course our delete key here is this little trash can. So you can delete your whole entire Prezi if you want. If you start getting too much and you've gone through version and version and version of stuff and you really don't need to keep them, and it's just taking up space, you can do that. So that's kind of our main page as we sign in. To get in here again, like I said, you hit the edit button. Slowly but surely. So here's our template that we're going to be using. What I can do is, since I saved a copy of it, I can kind of show you how these buttons at the top work. And the reason why I want to go in here is because I do have basically all aspects of what's up here in this program itself. So frames, which is probably the most confusing piece, is the frames are what create this path on the side here. So if you go through, layouts is just a general, another key that's going to give you some ideas of how to lay out some frames. But if you're setting up your own project, these are the 4 different ways that you're able to get a confined path, I guess you could say. So this bracket one, if we're just clicking on this, you just click on it and then you click and drag and it will give you, see, I hit the button up there for the 4:3. Now that's going to be what's going to allow you to present on a projector. That's going to be your size frame. So when I hit that, what it's doing is you see it drew these brackets here, and then what it did is it added it down in the bottom for my frame down here, and if you click on it, it'll bring you to it. So here's our main page. If we just click on this, and it drew brackets. So that's how, and you can, with these brackets, you can, if we're in the edit piece of it, you can see it adds a number to it, and that's what number slide it is or path it is within our presentation itself. They kind of do a lot of things. There's a new thing to be able to animate this. So if you have, say I have a bunch of images and stuff in this frame, if you're clicking this animate button, it'll allow you to click on one, say that you want it to come in first, second, or third, and as you go to this slide, it'll pop up in that order. And you're not able to adjust the timing or anything like that. It's just standard, put an animation in there. As far as the other frame, they're all basically the same if you want to do a circle frame. I'll show you how to set the colors here in a second. Again, a circle frame does the same thing. And then if you want to use, this is just a background, so it'll color everything, that color you pick. And then, so what you want to do is you want to keep all of your content that you want to show within inside these frames. And there's an invisible frame with, if you don't want to have anything shown around this when you move into it, like you see in our pads when we start going in here, you want to use the invisible or the hidden frame. And again, it's just draw a box, and it's just going to give you this light gray line. That's just dictating to you that we're going to have a frame there. Now there's a lot of things that you can do with these. You're going to want to put your content inside here. If you're clicking on them, you're going to get this zebra, as they call it, and you can rotate this, and that's what's going to help rotate your screen when you're moving from slide to slide. So if you just pick on one of these little things, you can see it's rotating. When you hover over them, when they highlight, that's the one that you're going to be able to pick. You'll notice that when you start zooming in and out of things. So now if I'm going to here, you can see how it rotates the screen the same direction that I rotated this. Circles, you can do the same thing. It's really hard to see, but there's a little arrow at the top up here. That's what allows you to understand the orientation of what you have, you can see it rotates that. I don't understand why they put it first. They should have put it last, because you're not going to want to enter your frames until you have your presentation completed, because like I said, it's adding all of these over here. So now I'm like, well, okay, maybe I don't want this. I have to go edit path, and I have to delete these. So, or I have to move them up and down within here, which is a way to reorder different things. So if you're creating one area first and you don't want it to be till last, if you're putting these frames around it, you're going to get all these extra areas over here that you're either going to have to rearrange or delete and redo them.
Can you redo the logic just by dragging on the number to a different frame?
You can, but when you start getting into really tight areas, say like,
Sure.
you know, I have some of this stuff down here. It's like, okay, well, what do I, how, you can just pick up this little guy and go, okay, well, and this is my mouse reacting horribly, sorry. You know, I don't want this to be here. I want it to be on this frame. So you can reorder it that way. It's just a little bit more confusing.
Sure.
So I just have a tendency of using this because it's easy. So then I can go, oh, okay, so this is number 8. Number 9 brings me, so, oh, well, that's not right. You know, so it's easier to do it that way. Again, the little stars are showing if we want to add animations to that. So say I click on this one. See how it brings up this box? Now everything that I have in here I'm able to animate. You see there's a little number 1 next to it. So if I click on this, what it's going to do is it'll bring this in on an animation. This could be number 2. All you have to do is click on them and then hit done. Oh, you're able to play that in there too. I'm sorry. Where am I at here? Oops. See, every time you click on something, it ends. You want to get out of this edit path button. If you start all of a sudden adding all these things to the side over here, make sure you have your edit path button off and you're not seeing those lines all over the place connecting your paths. Show you everything that you're not supposed to do today. What else about the path? So that's your frames and your paths. You can also, you want to make sure, like I said, you want to make sure that you're adding your stuff, your content, and then adding your frames, because what I was able to do is write all of this stuff straight and then rotate once I put a frame around it. I can show you how to do that because it's kind of confusing when you're working with it. I'm not much of a typer, sorry. So just say I want to add the bracket frames around it. And now what I can do is I can click on this frame and I can rotate all of the information, because everything that's inside this bracket itself is all basically bound together. So if I would have put a picture in there, it would do the same thing. It would rotate everything at once. And it will update once you've changed these frames. It will update here. So you can see it's turned even though I drew it straight originally and it went over to here. Does that make sense to everybody? Hopefully. And again, a lot of it's just about playing around with it and seeing how it works the best for you. Because maybe one way I'm doing it doesn't work the best for somebody else, but this is how I've learned to do it. You can select, as I'm doing this, you can only zoom out so far and you can only zoom in so far. So you see that error that I was getting? You'll get one if you keep zooming in farther too. So when you're creating your canvas, you want to make sure that the image that you're starting with is not going to be too big or too small, so it's not going to allow you to do your zooming in and out. So that's just one. There's some people that have had some problems with that. Understanding how far you can go in and out. Themes is another one that's a little confusing. I have a theme set up already, so I went in and I picked all my colors that I want to have for my text and my arrows and all that other stuff. But if you just want to start out with one that's pre-made, you can click on any of these. Now watch my screen. It's going to change the text and it'll change the arrow colors. These are preset themes that they have. And again, if you're using a colored background and you have white images, it looks horrible. So please don't try to do that.
Are we going to be able to create a Ryan one with the group license that everybody could use the same?
Everybody's going to be able to use this one,
Okay.
so everybody will get a copy of this to have on their accounts. And so this could be a starting point for everybody with the custom theme setup. Again, so now it's probably going to save, so I'm going to want to go backwards to my original theme.
So you're saying that
why I
this
don't want
particular presentation is the only template we have right now, but if we went in here, said create a custom theme, saved it as Ryan, and then did a new presentation, those colors and things would be available in that new presentation?
These are all colors that are picked from the palette, so yes, there's nothing there. Okay, sorry, let me rephrase that. I have not entered any custom colors into this. Everything that I have is underneath the themes here, and this will make more sense as we go through. You can see we can change our background color, like one of the other themes was a brown. I just keep it on a white, of course. Our 3D background, this is something that you guys are all going to have to play with. It's a little bit different. What you're allowed to do is you're allowed to layer 3 different photos or images, whatever it be, on top of each other, and the more you zoom in, it's like the more you pass the first one and the more you pass the second one. It's been difficult for me to use it in the pieces that I've been working with, but maybe someone else out there can have something that works real well with it.
So like the example of that I've seen is if you wanted to convey a message where you have a dark and cloudy day or a bad negative message, if you zoom in through the cloud, you then zoom to another image that's a bright, sunshiny day with a rainbow. Mm-hmm. So you have 2 images, one on top of each other, but it conveys a different context.
Yep. And you're able to put 3 in here, so thanks, Mike.
Back to the theme.
Yep.
So there isn't something right now where we copied another presentation and we can't just go in and make it, like a master slide where it'll do all of them.
I think we still need to figure out our group license a little bit.
Yes, unfortunately I'm not able to take, set it up in each one of them. We'd have to set up a main one and then do a copy as, or a copy and use it that way. Delete all the information out of there. Or what we can do is we can just write down all of this when you go to the next area here. We could let you know what we're using for text and title.
Yeah.
This allows you to change your fonts, and you only get 3, like I said before. So if you want to have something else that has a different type font in it, you'll have to type it in, say, like Illustrator or whatever file you want to. Save it out as a PDF and then bring it in that way. And why I say save it out as a PDF, JPEGs come in blurry if you start zooming in on them. So you want to make sure that you're using kind of that vector-based program to do your type. I've been putting all my type in the actual, from the Prezi piece itself, because otherwise it gets too fuzzy. But what you can do is you can pick your 3 different fonts that you would want to use here, and then you can pick the main color that you would like them to be when you first start typing. I, of course, just left everything on black, and then you'll see as I go through this, I've changed some of them to be some of these different colors. So 3 fonts, 3, and the different colors you'll always be able to change. Again, for our circle, for our frames, you're allowed to set the colors. You saw when I entered mine, the circle frames came in as a cream. The brackets were green, kind of that Ryan green, and then arrows, they're a blue color. This is a highlighter marker, which it's just more of an accent piece type thing. I've set mine to yellow. I haven't used it in any other current present. Well, I used it in one presentation, I guess, just to kind of highlight a word. It's kind of a fun little piece. It needs to be used correctly. And that was done. Let me go back here real quick to. I just want to go over, if you're good at understanding code and all this other fun stuff, here's where we can edit our font colors and different things like that. If you want to do the RGB colors, they would be in here. There's also, if you do this CS editor, Prezi C, I can't read it completely, this is where you can really get creative and start changing colors and sizes and all that other stuff. It's not the easiest, at least for me, to use, so if someone else is a little bit more savvy on kind of the code writing piece, this would work for you. Like it's saying that this font is, you know, it'll roll. You can look at it if you want. It's a little bit more difficult than I think that we really need to get into.
And for the time being, we could just take a snapshot of what you just showed as far as the colors, and we can just post that, and so then you would have it. You know.
So does everybody understand the themes piece?
I just want to make sure that once we're taking this out to clients that it's standardized the way that you want. But as I understand, we'll be getting the information about what color palette to use or recommendations about how it should look. Because when we got the PowerPoint that was a template that was standard, that was tremendously helpful because we can roll that out to other people in the office too and not have to worry that people are randomly kind of changing our look. And I know that's important to marketing that we not do that.
Yep, I agree. So yeah, everybody will get a copy of this one that's on the screen now as far as the presentation to have in your toolbox of stuff to use. And then we can just give you the information that you need to use for type fonts and colors for different things. So next, what is images, which is fairly easy. Basically, what you just, if you want to insert an image, you just click on the From File and then pick something from your desktop or whatever folders that you have in here. I don't even know what's in. Perfect. So just click on a file. Mouse problems again. And what it's going to do is it'll put it basically in the area that you were kind of located in again. So what you need to do is, by moving and changing these things, this is the way that you're going to want to do all of this. This little hand button, I'm just clicking on it, holding down the mouse button and moving it over. Same way that you move your screen. So that'll bring, if you just click on it once, that'll bring up this zebra. Oh, sorry. There's a trash button if you just want to get rid of it. And then this is the edit button. That what this is going to do, allow you to do for images, is it'll allow you to crop the images. So if you just grab one of these handles and pull it down, you'll see that it'll crop as soon as the computer catches up. So that's what your crop marks are, and when you click off of it, you'll see that that's what I've ended up cropping. Again, to rotate, even if you just want to have an image rotated versus having it in a frame, or if you want to have an image with a frame around it that's a little bit crooked, that kind of adds a little bit extra fun to it, you want to rotate your image first, and then draw your frame around it, and then if you want this whole entire thing rotated, you'll rotate it this way.
One thing I would say after giving a few of these presentations, the more you rotate it, the dizzier people get.
Yep.
So use it sparingly.
And that's part of one of my last points on the page. If you look at it, I said important notes for smooth. You want to make sure you have smooth transition so people don't get seasick. That's one of the biggest complaints that I've got on some of the ones that I've done already. The more you move, the farther you move across the canvas, the more you twist and turn, it's really going to make people seasick. So you want to make sure stuff is close to each other, and you're not, like I said, not going across the whole entire canvas when you're going from path to path. And you'll get the hang of that the more that you start working in it. You'll get a few feedback items that say, "I'm sick from watching your presentation."
So Casey, you also have a note here about showing the overview often to give your bearings.
Yep.
Are you able to pick a frame and have it be shown multiple times in the same logic?
Yep, you can. Like if we go up to the top of my path here,
yep,
you'll see the first view that I have is going to be of this. And then I kind of went through some stuff, and I usually end up, this is all the project information as you see it going down the side here. And then what I did again is I zoomed out. So if I'm in here, I'm going through all the projects. What I did was I zoomed out to see, again, where we were at.
Oh, so that's why it's 3 and 25?
Yep, yep, so that's why you're seeing this here. Usually what I end up doing is you can see when I hover over, this is like a frame that I've zoomed into a couple times. So you just want to make sure, it just helps you understand where you're at on the project itself, because it can get kind of confusing. Images, again, what you can do is you can pull stuff off the internet. Now these are images that are going to be able for us to use. What do you call them? Non-licensed images. Yeah. So these, if you're looking for something specific, this is a good way to get them. You're not going to get you won't get the same amount as what you get when you just do like a Google search. But again, these are ones that they're allowing us to use. So you can see as soon as
they're not guaranteed to be the right resolution either if you get them this way?
They're not, is what you're saying?
That way? Or are they screened to be sure they're high enough quality, or no?
Everything that I've pulled on here, as you can see, I'm scrolling through them, they all look really good. So you may get into a certain category that's not as good. You can see that one maybe isn't as good as this next one. But yeah, most of the stuff that I've pulled off here has worked really well as far as resolution-wise.
And on the page, on the handout, it says 50 megabytes per file. Is that the recommendation for your main image, the one that covers the whole background, if that's what you're doing? Or that doesn't mean for every
any image
file?
that you're bringing in, because if you get bigger than that, the screen gets really jumpy.
Oh, so under 50 megabytes.
Yeah.
Okay, makes sense.
We're on time.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, so if you're clicking on these, it'll just set it in there. I like to talk apparently. Yeah.
If you return to the search pane where you could key in, where you first keyed in pumpkin, there was a checkbox below that. What did that say about commercial use? Can you explain more about that?
Yeah, that's what you want to make sure that you're using that. So anything that we're bringing out is not going to be licensed from someone else. So it's not protected basically. So sorry, you're right. I forgot to hit that. So if you click that, it'll give you. You can see now there's different images that come up. So we want to make sure if we're using anything off the internet, of course, that it's not going to be protected by someone else.
I have a question. If you bring your presentation and you're using it on another computer, like a customer's computer or something like that, could the fonts be affected if they don't have those fonts loaded on their computer?
No, because it's all internet based.
Awesome.
So your fonts are all from the internet.
Okay, good.
Are we? Oh, thank you.
Kick them out.
They're in the IPT room. They're in the back room.
Okay, so that kind of goes over the images. I'll try to speed it up here. Sorry, I know I'm talking too much. Symbols, that's a new thing. It's just a bunch of little goofy things that you can put in if you want to highlight something. I haven't done it. It's a new thing that just came out a couple weeks ago. So again, you just click on an item and it comes in on your screen. You can click on it and move it, just like you can anything else. Shapes. This is where I've done my arrows, my lines, my rectangles, all these little things that are here. And again, remember in the theme area, I chose to have my arrows come in as blue, but you can see that these are black. You get a choice of 5 colors when you set those original colors within your theme. So you can see when I'm on this blue one, I can change it to any of these colors that we have listed here. As far as resizing these, it's the same way as what we're doing with pictures, is once you can double click on this and that'll bring up this edit piece. And then if you single click on it, it's going to bring up our little area guy here, or zebra guy. And you can do a plus or minus to make the arrows fatter or thinner. Same thing with some of the other ones. So, and again, this is the edit button. If you click on it twice, it's the same as that. So that's the same for all of the shapes. They're all circles, all that other fun stuff. The media stuff is you can either bring up a video in from that's on your computer, or you can again link to the YouTube that we were talking about earlier. So what this will allow you to do is just type in your URL of your YouTube, and it'll insert it in just like a picture. You can size it, you can rotate it, you can do all that fun stuff with it. It's just when you click on that, it's going to be just a link that it's going to bring you back. Or I'm sorry, it'll actually insert the video here. So that's why you need to have that internet access.
Now I tell you, our YouTube videos have been temperamental when we've been in presentations a couple of times. So just be careful. I think we've had better luck embedding.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've had better luck recording.
Filing it,
Recording something from the internet or just another file, recording it in our own kind of offline recording software, and then embedding it that way. But some other files you might find would be any BIM files or any kind of presentations that way that can be fairly large and bring in. But generally we try and keep everything offline if we can, just because we're nervous about the wireless connection. So.
Yeah. What's
you
the
wanted
software
to-
that you mentioned, the recording software?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Camtasia is one of them.
Okay.
Yep, and so we just
It
have...
just captures YouTube videos and brings them to your desktop?
Well, it captures any video. So if I wanted to take something off a website, or if I wanted to record like a BIM video but I didn't want all of it, you can record it and then you can edit it. So you can cut pieces out and things like that. And so that way you're pulling a YouTube video offline and just embedding it kind of offline. And then that way you're not having to worry about being connected to the internet.
Have we tried it with Snagit yet?
I have tried it with Snagit as well. So Snagit and Camtasia are both recording softwares that you could use.
The reason I bring up Snagit is it's extremely cheap.
Yeah.
It's like $30,
Right.
whereas Camtasia's hundreds or thousands.
Yeah. But we could work on getting them access to the remote desktop
Yes.
if we could get it to work. But yeah, yep. But those would be the two to use to pull anything offline. But people have had great success with YouTube videos too, just as long as they know that their internet connection is going to work, or if they have an iPad with a data plan. So.
Yep. And the iPad,
Thank you.
what
That
it does
came up
is
the other day, and I didn't know what to use, so that's very helpful.
Okay.
on the iPads, just to help the users that you guys will be basically creating these presentations for, Mike has the most experience in it, but it's just an app on their Apple Store, or it's free, I believe, isn't it?
It's free.
Yep. And you just download that to your iPad, and then you link it to an account. So every time you make any changes or additions to that account, it's going to update on their iPad. So that's kind of the main reason. I don't want to say main reason. It's one of the reasons why we've started using the Prezi, is because it's interchangeable and it's allowing you to bring it out of the office a lot easier. So that'll be something that you'll probably have to work through with the people that you're doing the presentations for.
Yeah, and it's really nice for those last-minute updates, of which I'm sure none of you guys ever get. But I know I've done it to Morgan before, where I've been flying a caller with a couple updates, and by the time I land, I download it on my iPad again, and everything's perfect exactly the way I want it. So it helps out in that situation.
And then the main difference is that you're not having to lug around a laptop and pull up a PowerPoint presentation and things like that. So it just, in that respect, it just makes the presentation kind of start much smoother.
And is there sort of a general rationale about what we should be using Prezi for and what we're using PowerPoint for, or is it kind of at our discretion right now?
I believe it's at your discretion. Again, there's going to be certain clients that are going to probably understand it and respond to it a little bit better than others. But yeah, as long as it's created correctly, I would imagine you'd be able to use it for a majority of the stuff. And your end user has to understand how to use it. Obviously, we'll be creating it, so your end user who's going to be presenting has to understand how to use it also.
Yeah. And one quick thing, maybe Casey's going to, I know it's on the agenda here, is the PowerPoint button.
Mm-hmm.
So we've actually had some teams create their whole presentation using the marketing PowerPoint templates, and then just because that's what they're used to and they weren't sure if they were going to be using Prezi, and then once the PowerPoint was done, you can easily insert all of those slides, and it just copies over everything you brought in, whether it's links, pictures, content, etc. So that way, if you do want to work offline on the PowerPoint so you can share it amongst the team, and because you're just not sure about Prezi, that's fine. And then you can always embed that in and just make it a Prezi. So that's kind of a really easy thing that you can do to kind of get used to Prezi maybe the first couple of times you use it. So, because some people are just accustomed to PowerPoint. They like it. They want to keep using it. And so if you already have a lot of a presentation already kind of built up in a PowerPoint and you only need to maybe change some client information or things like that, you can start by just embedding that PowerPoint and then make some changes from there. So, and that's really easy to do.
So as Morgan's talking about that, I just wanted to kind of show you guys how it comes in. Each PowerPoint slide will come in as an individual slide that's already going to be framed. So I just chose this one because, as you saw, it was LA because that's what I do. And there's going to pop up this thing on the side that'll give you each of your slides. You can drop and drag individual slides, or you can insert all of them at in the same time, and they're just going to line up in a big old line. And what you need to do is, like she said, it's going to be individual pieces in there, so you can twist and turn and resize and make it a little bit more interesting versus putting the whole entire slide in there as just one big block. So ultimately, if we're just putting the slide in here as one big block, it's not doing what the program is, available to do.
But it might be a good kind of training or practice option. So if you have a PowerPoint, instead of maybe starting from scratch and kind of learning all these buttons here and there, just take an existing presentation that you've done for a client and pull it in here, and then maybe begin to start turning and twisting and maybe changing font colors and things like that. And that way you're not starting from scratch. You kind of have a basis to go off of. But yeah, it just brings in exactly what you would have in that PowerPoint. And if you are using the marketing ones, then you would at least have some of the fonts and the layouts that have been recommended already. So.
Yes, as you can see, what I did was I just picked those up and drug them to the screen, and then to start out with, this PowerPoint presentation actually had a green background, so it actually got rid of the background on it, and it's just allowing us to place the images with the frame around it. So you can drag and drop and change things all the way you want. So if I want to change this to be a different font, you can do that. So yeah, it's a good way to start kind of messing around and playing with some different things. So then I can turn this whole entire slide, and then if I go,
it might also be a good way to kind of get some non-Prezi believers on board. So if you can take something that already looks and feels like Ryan and pull it in here and then basically say, this is what your PowerPoint looks like, this is what your Prezi looks like, it's very identical, and then you can tweak it from there. So it might be, and that was the main reason for why they were working on the PowerPoint and then decided to bring it in. So it may just kind of help ease the transition from PowerPoint to Prezi for some people who are nervous about it. So.
What else do we have? As far as when you're doing pictures and text and you're adding stuff layer on layers here, it has the same ability as it does in like Word, different things like that. If you just right-click on an option, or on an object, you'll see that it'll get you into your edit text, which is just the double-click option. You can add a path, as you saw I did. I added it to the bottom down there. And then you can bring text or images forward to backward. So right now this text is on top of this picture. If I want to send it backward, it's going to send it behind that. And it's kind of hard to see. But and then there's also a spell check option, which I believe I have on right now. So you can turn it off if you want to, but I just have mine turned on because I'm horrible at spelling. But it'll allow you, it'll just, same thing as Word, it'll bring a little red line underneath it, so it'll tell you that your word is spelled incorrectly. So that's just kind of some general overview. You can see there's the red line. Some of the people out there who have worked in Illustrator and all those fun ones, to select multiple items, you can either do a shift and select the items. I'm just holding down the shift key and clicking. Click off of it to get off it. Or if you have a lot of items in one area, you just hold down the shift key and drag over top, and you have to be completely over top of it to select that option. So then You can pick it up and drag it. You can, again, right-clicking, you can copy and paste. You can delete, cut, whatever you want to do with it. So they're creating a lot more options in this for being able to move things around, which they didn't have when I first started using it. So it's quite nice. What else do we have?
I think it's pretty good.
Questions on anything that I have covered or that you've read on the outline that I didn't follow exactly, and if there's anybody left out there?
Yeah, as far as the licensing goes, if you want a license or need one, you can contact me, Morgan, and I can get you set up with that. And then obviously we'll post this training and this agenda, and then we have some super users around throughout all of our offices that can assist with some training as well. But anyway, for anyone who just wants to kind of get around and play in it, you're certainly more than welcome to. You can create a free account, or we'll just give you a login so that you can mess around with it. But
right now what I'm doing is I'm just running through. This is going to be our standard layout for if we're working for one of the goals in marketing is to have an area in your area be able to set up projects for whatever your end user wants to use it for. So is it this one is the best of Texas. So what I did was I took the few projects that they've worked on down there and just put them in, and then now I'm showing just different pieces. See how that one came up when I went the Home Depot? That's the animate. It won't go backwards, but so I just created these few little things and pulled off some key points that might be interesting for these projects to help our teams go through this. When you're on a regular computer, you can do the forward and backwards button, but one of the goals to do this is if we're on our iPads, what they can do is they can just double click on some of these frames that are already made. And like I said, it doesn't work well on computers. But if you double click, it'll zoom you into this area. And then if I click on the yellow, it should zoom you out to a different area. So, and it's something that you're just going to have to work with your people who are using iPads. So that way they don't have to actually follow the actual paths. They can zoom in and out and they can move back and forth. So Alstom obviously was in Amarillo, and see, it finally got to work there. So all I did was click on the outside frame, which was this gray frame, and it brought me into there. And now if I click on this circle, it should pull me into that area. So that's how they're planned to be used for the most part on the iPads instead of using the paths. But what I've done is I've still set up paths in case that's something that they don't want to do. So each one of the offices will be asked to put together one of these presentations that's either the best of or your BIM projects or lead projects, whatever it be, so you're able to have the executives or whoever it be, your selling team within your office, to take these out and start using them. So I just chose Austin because it was our Austin office because it was easy, and they have the smallest team down there. And again, so I'm just zooming out. If I click on here, it should bring us to here. So once the licenses are set up in each office, what I'll do is I'll send this actual presentation to you, which what you'll have to do is download the Prezi desktop, and I'll send out directions with it. So you need, which is part of the Pro licensing. You download the Prezi desktop to your desktop, open up the Prezi, and then upload it to each one of your licenses, so you have this as a template to work from. And that's the easiest way that I've understood to share it. So if anyone finds anything different, please let me know. So that, I believe, is it. If no one else has questions on it, please feel free to take a look at it, play around with it. Again, like Morgan said, you can sign up for a free one until you get a pro. All that information can be transferred back and forth. And I think that's it.